We are not going to outsource our national security. We are not going to outsource our hemispheric security to other countries. And if there were an attack on Greenland from Russia, from some other area, we would get dragged in. So better now, peace through strength, make it part of the United States, and there will not be a conflict, because the United States right now, we are the hottest country in the world. We are the strongest country in the world. The United States needs to be in control to prevent a war, and that we do not want to get dragged into someone else's war.
Is Greenland or NATO more essential to the United States' national security?
Well, Chris, that's obviously a false choice. That's a
not from the perspective of European leaders.
The European leaders will come around and they will understand that they need to be under the U.S. security umbrella. What would happen in Ukraine that if the U.S. pulled its support out? The whole thing would collapse. That the U.S., Kristen, to be clear, since 1980, the U.S. has spent U.S. military spending versus NATO military spending, we have spent $22 trillion more than the Europeans have. That we are peace through strength. And the Europeans now are only trying to play catch up. And that is only through President Trump. President Trump believes in NATO, but he does not believe in the American people being dragged in. I believe that the Europeans will understand that this is best for Greenland, best for Europe, and best for the United States.
The United States has intensified its push to stake a commanding claim over Greenland, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent delivering a stark warning. Europe, he says, lacks the power and the will to defend the strategically critical Arctic island in a future global showdown. Speaking to NBC, Bessent declared that Washington can no longer afford to outsource its national security. Casting Greenland as a frontline battleground in an inevitable struggle for Arctic dominance, he argued that American control is a matter of survival, not choice. While Europe resists for now, Bessent insisted reality will force its hand and that U.S. leadership will ultimately prevail. U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly pushed for American control of Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark with a population of roughly 56,000. Trump has portrayed the island as indispensable to U.S. defense planning, particularly against potential threats from Russia and China. The proposal has triggered a serious rupture within NATO, with European allies warning that Washington's pressure undermines international law and the alliance's unity. Denmark and the European Union have firmly rejected any attempt to alter Greenland's status, insisting its future can only be decided by Greenlanders and Copenhagen. Bessent doubled down on Trump's argument, telling NBC that an attack on Greenland would inevitably drag the United States into a conflict, making preemptive control a matter of peace through strength. "We are the strongest country in the world," Bessent said, contrasting what he called U.S. resolve with European weakness. He cited Europe's reliance on American support in Ukraine as evidence that the continent cannot independently counter major threats, warning that without U.S. backing, Ukraine's resistance would collapse. Trump has escalated the standoff by threatening tariffs on 8 European countries opposing his Greenland push. A 10% levy on imports is set to take effect on February 1st, with the rate potentially rising to 25% by June 1st if no agreement is reached. In response, the EU has rallied behind Denmark and signaled it may deploy retaliatory trade measures, informally dubbed the trade bazooka, which could include restrictions on U.S. market access or targeted export controls. European leaders have pushed back strongly. UK Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy told Sky News that Britain's position on Greenland was non-negotiable, echoing Prime Minister Keir Starmer's view that the island's future is solely for Greenlanders and Danes to decide. Starmer also criticized Trump's tariff threats against NATO allies as completely wrong. Germany, France, Sweden, Norway, and the UK recently sent small troop contingents to Greenland for a Danish-led military exercise, though German forces have since returned home, according to a military spokesperson.
On Greenland, the right way to approach an issue of this seriousness is through calm discussion between allies. And let's be clear, the security of Greenland matters. And it will matter more as climate change reshapes the Arctic, as sea routes open and strategic competition intensifies. The High North will require greater attention, greater investment, and stronger collective defence. The United States will be central to that effort, and the UK stands ready to contribute fully alongside our allies through NATO. But there is a principle here that cannot be set aside, because it goes to the heart of how stable and trusted international cooperation works. And so any decision about the future status of Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. That right is fundamental, and we support it. Denmark is a close ally of the United Kingdom and of the United States, a proud NATO member that has stood shoulder to shoulder with us, including at real human cost in recent decades. Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Nor is it helpful to frame efforts to strengthen Greenland's security as a justification for economic pressure. Such measures hurt British workers, British businesses, and the British economy. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue. A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
Russia has watched the dispute closely. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov described the situation as extraordinary from the perspective of international law, but said it was unsurprising given Trump's disregard for legal norms. Moscow, which maintains a significant Arctic presence despite being geographically distant from Greenland, has reiterated that it recognizes the island as Danish territory. As tensions mount, the Greenland dispute has evolved into a broader test of transatlantic relations, pitting Trump's hardline vision of U.S. security dominance against Europe's insistence on sovereignty, alliance cohesion, and the rules-based international order.